Hello there, it's Suzy Walker here, editor at Psychologies, and I'm with our lovely agony aunt, Mary Fenwick. I'm so delighted to see you, Mary. Mary is the solve of our Psychologies team. She solves all of our problems. We go to Mary when we're really like, we don't know what to do. And Mary knows, but we're really delighted that Mary is talking to me today on Facebook Live, but every day this week at 5:30 on Instagram Live, you will have access to Mary Fenwick. So it's Mental Health Awareness Week, and Mary is going to be talking to us every day at 5:30 on Instagram Live and be solving all our problems. So thank you so much. Thank you very much, Mary. How are you finding how are you finding lockdown?
Well, definitely, the agony and the ecstasy, all of that is true. I think what I'm finding, and I think a lot of other people are finding, is, well, there's two things: the ups and downs. There seems to be a bigger gap, and also the feelings are very, very intense. I've had things happen which ordinarily I've got kind of coping mechanisms for, and they don't bother me that much. But, I've had things that have really hit me with massive intensity. And I think that's what I'm noticing for other people a bit as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're our agony aunt. It's such a weird description. I don't even know. Do you know where the agony aunt moniker came from?
No, I don't actually. Well, we started out trying to call this column a wise woman column, didn't we?
Yeah.
But then we found that when we were referring to it in kind of natural conversation, that's just what people call it, to kind of categorize it. That's what you call it.
But I think in all the therapy that I've done and noticing it is, it's being able to acknowledge the agony with me.
Yeah.
And, your page is one of our most successful pages. When we all look at things, it's the one that everybody reads. And it's because, there's a place where people can share often, confidentially, without anonymously, on the page, and then we all resonate with so much of the problems that that are there. So it's readers are being vulnerable. But how do you know what to write? How do you know? Because it's very different to almost with coaching, because you're giving kind of resources. How do you know what to write?
Well, I run it by a few people. I'll usually talk about each question with at least one other person, and then before I send it off to Lizzie, the features editor, I'll always get at least another one or two people to read it, just for sense, because I find that I can get I can get a bit too nitty gritty and forget to say the simple things. But part of it goes back to what my original training was as a radio journalist. And the way that we were taught is to tell a story as if you've just rushed in and there's something that you're bursting to say to that person. So when I read the questions, there's usually something that I'm bursting to say to that person. But I also want to check it out with other people. So again, nearly every question I'll have gone to somebody who's a complete expert in that question. And if I have, it's lovely to hear you say these lovely things, but the main thing that I focus on is it's like distilling and concentrating this massive information into something that is fairly easily digestible. Because when people are under stress, they need things quite simple.
Sure. Do you find there's a theme, or what are the most common problems that people are struggling with? What are the things that come up over and over again?
Relationship ones, and actually it's a really incredibly common question for, I think, maybe just the Psychologies Magazine demographic, to have this feeling of everybody else is somehow getting it right and I'm getting it wrong. That I think variations on that feeling are incredibly common. By my age, I should have had a baby. I should have. Why am I still not happy in my job? Those kind of things. So just sort of dissatisfaction and to a certain extent comparing yourself to other people, but that I don't want to be dismissive. It's very real,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? What about imposter syndrome?
I don't get that much of that in the magazine. I mean, I get a lot of it in my like one-to-one work with women in leadership. I mean, we all know imposter syndrome. Honestly, the agony that I had about taking this job in the first place. So yeah, it's still real. But I think I've also come to think, I don't know if this is a change that other people see. Men also do suffer from imposter syndrome. They just call it something different. And maybe they don't, because they call it something different, they don't let it get so big. They just go, oh yeah, there's that voice again.
Yeah, sure. And they can deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of giving advice, what would you say if you have a friend who has problems? What's the best way to help somebody else who you want to help them, but there's a whole kind of drama triangle, them, isn't there, about people or then persecuting them and then becoming a victim? You've got to be careful of that sort of drama. So how can we help people without turning them into victims?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that question. That's about empowering people, isn't it?
Yes.
And it is amazing how much you empower people if you just listen to them, if you just listen to them. And I had this experience, in fact, just yesterday. This is going to sound a bit mean, but I was talking to a friend about something that was really bothering me, and she was not able to say the right thing. And that was because she so desperately wanted to make me feel better. And we know that feeling, but it's like my husband used to call it, this is going back to the movie Alien, where Sigourney Weaver had the alien burst out of her stomach. And he used to say that moment where you're just busting to give advice to somebody, that's when you've got to hold on to your alien.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. I had that conversation actually at the weekend with somebody else, and we were just saying that it's not such advice, but sometimes it's like, oh, I've got a fantastic resource for that. What's that? Because of course at Psychologies we have so much access to all of this brilliant, amazing, inspirational stuff. And then someone says, oh, I'm feeling a little bit and you don't go, tell me more. You go, oh, I've got a great and like, yeah, that's really it doesn't actually help, does it? I think it's almost, you've got to wait for someone to come to you and say, what did you say that name of that video was?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's how do you control the helper in me or if you're wanting to help and you're wanting to sort of give people resources, how do you manage that? You manage that alien. How do you stop yourself from doing it?
Well, this is where it's different in real life compared to the column, because people are actually asking for advice. But I think in real life, I would try to say something like, what would you like me to do? What support would you like? What would help you right now? What do you want? You can be really explicit and say, do you want me to be listening to you just to listen, or would you like me to be thinking about possible solutions while I'm listening to you?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And again, it's that thing of, there's that classic thing about men, isn't there? If you tell a man a problem, I mean, I'm not saying that this is true, but there is a kind of a myth that you tell a man and he wants to fix it. So it's just in terms of this helping mechanism, being an agony aunt. I suppose there's also a thing, you're talking about empowerment. There's a whole piece, isn't there, here about, how to empower yourself. And when you're looking for that information yourself, it's a constant. And I think that's why your columns are so popular. So you give a piece of research and then you ask a question. It's not very often you give advice, apart from the one perhaps when you said, yes, get a cat. You actually did say that, I think, get a cat.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether to get a cat or not.
But I partly said that for a purpose, because I was thinking it's important for her to hear somebody taking a position and just to accept it might be right, it might be wrong. And it's okay.
Yeah, that's
because the other thing that I really, really want people to know, and I hope this is an empowering thing to believe, is that I don't have all the answers for myself. You know, we all do need other people. And yeah.
Well, we were just talking, weren't we, just before we got onto the call, this idea of so you and I have enormous resources at our fingertips, but at the same time we do also have the lockdown and COVID-19 has triggered us in different ways, and we've got these ups and downs. And I was just confessing to you that sometimes when it gets all a bit dark, the only thing that will work for me is listening to those, my self-development greats like Brené Brown or Mark Beck or Oprah, or the people that really inspire me, and to hear in my voice in the deepest depths of the night, those voices that can inspire me and help me. And Pema Chodron, who's our Backpage muse, all of those people that I go, oh yeah. And it's again, what you do, Mary, is you channel wise women and wise experts. I think that's what you do. So there's nothing wrong with reaching for those, is there? That the kind of age-old advice is reach inside of yourself for wisdom. How do you do that?
Yeah, I'm really not sure that is the best advice, particularly at the moment, actually. I know that is generally the case, and your as it were, your gut instinct is one of the resources that you have. But I would also say test it out with at least one other person.
Yeah.
I do think there's almost like a chemical reaction when your words get oxygen with the right listener, something does shift as well.
Yeah.
To your list, I would add, I'm a massive fan of Tara Brach and Kristen Neff, both of whom talk about mindful self-compassion. And the other reason that we need to kind of bounce things off other people is just because we've cognitively got the knowledge, it doesn't mean that we can feel it or put it into practice without sometimes a bit of a reminder, because under stress is kind of shutting down the bits of our brain that would allow us to remember that stuff.
Yeah, and it's that kind of, it's shutting down the wise brain, isn't it? As you say, the place where we can go, the wisdom. So in the moment, it's very, very difficult to get, once you're triggered, isn't it, to get to that place. And I suppose that, what the great teachers teach us is that if we can meditate, and we're constantly learning to be able to leap from, stress brain into the prefrontal lobes, calm brain, the more
in your body, and get into your body rather than your head.
Yes. The more we can deal with and come up with those wisdom, but that takes practice, often in non-stressy times. So it depends where you are in this lockdown. If you're on the front lines and you're dealing with stress every day, I know my lovely friend Laura, absolutely horrific. She's a nurse on the front lines, and she's had to take the day off the other day and had 3 days. She said, I just sort of was in my garden grounding herself because she's so stressed. But many of us are. It's not stress because we're on the front line, but we're in our homes, but in our heads, where all these worries pecking at us, and it's quite terrifying. So it's being able to, in a way, it's a great big self-development exercise, isn't it? To get calm, to find.
Also, if we're, I also want to remind people that the other resources available are medication, are your GP, and are therapy. And within my family, all of those resources are also used.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing is, we were talking to one of the experts last week, and it's this piece around, you don't have to suffer.
Yeah.
There is help available. There is, as you say, GP, coaches, therapists, friends, just the whole thing of reaching out. The worst thing is being in isolation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in terms of mental health awareness, the first piece is saying, I'm struggling, I need help. And and there are so many resources out there. It's just finding the resources that are going to help you.
Yeah. And that I love my job with Psychologies Magazine, and you've just created such a lovely community, Suzy. And so it's a very trusting two-way relationship, I feel, between the magazine and the readers. It's a real community.
Yeah, our readers are. I go to our communities for for succor sometimes. I mean, the day I made the mistake of going into one of the national newspapers websites. That was such a big mistake. And I came out and I felt like I'd been beaten up. I was like, oh my goodness. Even it was so, the information was so stark. And I mean, a lot of it's just made up because no one really knows what's going to happen. Fear and the anxiety that it brought into me. So I went into the Psychologies kind of the Life Labs site, and it was just so lovely. Everyone is sharing lovely, funny, humorous information. So it's so important, isn't it, that kind of community that we have? Really. So that's why I'm so delighted that at 5:30 every day, the lovely Mary Fenwick, Psychologies Agony Aunt, is going to be on our Instagram live account. There, I'm going to go and I'm going to secretly, I will see if I can go on somebody else's thing. Tell you all my problems, and you can solve all my problems for me. But Mary, thank you so much for raising the awareness once again of mental health awareness, which is all about kindness. And I know you're going to be talking about kindness and resilience today, which is really great. Thank you so much, Mary. And I'll see you in 15 minutes on Instagram Live. Go there.
Thank you.
Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Brilliant. That was great.